Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 318 of the Falcoholic Live. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by my co-host Adnan Ikic. He's at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
Doing well. Hey, it was 73 in Georgia today. February, who?
Yeah.
It felt like spring out there today. Man, I love living in the South.
Yeah, it's been warm though here the last few days. So we got like snow every day for like two
Literally.
weeks, and it was like piling up and causing problems at
And
that
and
point.
and by
Yeah.
and by warm, Kevin means like in the 40s.
Yeah, like
Like it was
42. Yeah, that was warm.
right.
So after like 3 days of like low 40s, there's been some melting. So like I
Yeah,
can see my sidewalk again. So
right.
that's nice. But yeah, there's still huge snow piles everywhere, but there's been some
Yes.
melting. So that's nice. But as you
I,
guys can see, Eric Robinson with us as well. Eric, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Trying to stay warm as possible, even though we've endured those single digit days. I tip my cap to
Yep.
you, Kevin. We survived it. It was hell. It was absolutely hell on earth. Let's be honest.
I went to the gym in a tank top today.
Oh my
Hey.
God. Yeah, there was one morning it was 8 degrees, and I didn't want to go near my front door. Like not at all. Not I'm fine.
Yeah.
That's hmm.
That's you can like to me it's like it's cold, and then when you step outside and your nose hairs freeze
Oh
instantly, it's
my
like, oh,
God.
okay, I know it's single digits now.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
My
you
my
take one
beard
breath.
my
Yeah.
beard has suffered. My beard has suffered a little bit
It's like,
this season.
okay, we're to the next level of cold when your
Yeah.
nose hairs
Like
freeze
like
immediately.
no
It's like,
shit. Like
okay.
I literally had like the frozen
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
frozen
Mhm.
hairs, just like Andy Reid had that one time.
Yeah.
Literally. It
It
was that.
happens. It definitely
Yes.
happens. Especially if it's like snowing a bunch, because it'll get
Yes.
caught and then it'll melt
Yep.
slightly and then it'll freeze again.
Yep.
It's a whole
Yep.
mess. But we'll save the rest of that for the weather pod. But guys, thank you for joining us here. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Fontenot and Morris press conferences, some revelations. I don't know if they're revelations or it's more just the team taking a hard line on the Kirk Cousins injury. As well as some interesting comments about Kyle Pitts and obviously the team getting fully behind Michael Penix. We're going to get into all that stuff. We're going to get into prospects we want to watch this week at the Combine because we got no on-field workouts yet, but they're coming very soon. So guys that we're looking forward to seeing there.
Tomorrow, I
And then
believe, right?
yeah, I think the first group maybe
Yeah.
starts tomorrow. So
Yeah.
we're just in time for that. And then we'll be getting into maybe some whatever strikes the fancy. Obviously, if you guys have questions, throw those out there too. And we'll try to get to whatever we can during tonight's show. Before we get started, I want to, of course, thank our sponsors. First of all, Bet Online. Folks, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting in 2025, whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor. Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and March Madness about to fire off here. We're just a couple days away from March. College basketball is heating up. They've also got, of course, NHL, UFC. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source from every three-pointer to hat trick. BetOnline's got you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. Just make sure when you sign up to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get access to the latest promotions. BetOnline, the game starts here. Remember, it's betonline.ag is the site. Thanks to those guys for sponsoring the show. And, of course, want to shout out Underdog Fantasy. Unfortunately, no more fantasy football, but Underdog Fantasy has all sports. They've got NBA, like I said. Same thing I said for BetOnline. They've got NBA. They got college basketball going. They got NHL. Whatever strikes your fancy, Underdog's got it. And you guys know Underdog, super easy to play. You pick players that you think are going to outperform expectations, higher or lower on those numbers, and you can actually adjust them yourself. That's one thing I really like about Underdog's particular style. It didn't help me win, because I like to overthink everything, but it could help you. But love Underdog Fantasy. It's a lot of fun. They've also got traditional fantasy. It's one of the better platforms, in my opinion, as well as DFS. So go check those guys out and make sure when you sign up to use our promo code at Underdog, which is BIRDS, BIRDS, like Dirty Birds and Brews, to get access to up to a $1,000 bonus cash offer and a free pick as well. Can't say no to that. So thanks again to Underdog for sponsoring tonight's episode. All right. So let's kick off with these press conferences. And yes, I remember also Crimson Huntsman pointed out the NFLPA report card came out, which the Falcons dramatically improved on, like one of the biggest improvements in the entire NFL. So we could touch on that too. But the big news, obviously, if you call it news, because I think most of us kind of assumed this was the case based on what we had heard, but the Falcons essentially have come out and said that more or less Kirk Cousins hid his injury from them, this week 10 injury. That basically he downplayed. I believe the exact quote from the article posted on the team website was that it was the severity and like longevity of the injury was downplayed or not fully reported to the Falcons. So, that's the official line, is that Kirk Cousins didn't disclose the injury to them, so therefore they couldn't disclose it to anyone else. I know that the common refrain will be, how could they not know? Which I think is fair. I think that's also fair. But it is interesting to see them take such a. I mean, I guess it's not surprising to see them take this hard stance, given that, if they were actually hiding an injury from the NFL, like in a significant way, that would be very problematic. But it's a difficult situation. It's a sketchy situation, but the team is basically throwing Cousins under the bus, or at least putting the blame on him. Eric, what do you think about this development? Is this more or less what you thought it was anyway, and this is just confirmation, or you think there's more to this, or what?
So I'm starting to just look at the entire scope of this chapter, I guess you want to call it. But it didn't get off to the greatest of foots with the whole tampering thing. Then of course you have the drafting of Penix that kind of sort of created the awkward situation. I'm thinking about everything that has played itself out over the course of this year off the field. Like everything from the tampering to the drafting of Penix to the team not letting him know that they were going to be taking a guy like Penix to now this. Now, I don't want to pick sides here, but first thing that comes to mind is this intentional from Kirk? If it was, let's just say it was, I'm not saying it is, but if it was, very selfish to put yourself before the team. You knew you were not healthy enough to play. You knew you were ineffective. And if it was left up to him, we probably would have never saw Penix. So if it is the case where you wanted to hide something just for the sake of pride, that's pretty selfish. And you expect something out of that from a guy that's played 2 or 3 years, not a guy that's played a decade plus, that's been on a couple teams, that's been to the postseason. Like, you don't expect that from a professional like that. If it wasn't intentional and he was literally just trying to, hide this thing to an extent, not necessarily put the team in jeopardy, but he wanted to hide this as much as he could, then I do have to look at the team and say, well, how could you guys not tell? How are you guys let this bleed for like 4 or 5 games of him looking ineffective. And from what we know now, it's like he got hurt against the Saints and you still had games where he didn't look like himself, and you allowed it to continue to occur. You allowed the Chargers game to occur. You literally let us play 4 quarters against the Raiders, knowing that he's a liability on the field. You didn't even try to throw Penix out on the field during that contest. So it's one of those things where one side here looks one side looks sketchy, another side looks incompetent. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And to me, this is the perfect way to just close this chapter. Like this, there's no reason why he should be on the sideline next year. I don't care how much money you're trying to say. I don't care how much pride you're trying to show. This is another sign where I'm like, this relationship it's not going to work. It's not there. It's tainted. It's been tainted for a while. And it's probably best that both parties go their separate ways, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know that's kind of the belief of, I think, most of the media, is that the Falcons are just going to cut bait with Cousins because they don't really want to deal with it. And I think he's definitely intentionally being a pain in the ass at this point.
It's possible.
While also trying to build his case to another team that like, oh, well, that bad stretch, I mean, I was hurt. That wasn't, me. Like that was hurt me. I was trying to play through that,
Which is, yeah, which is where, that could definitely be the case. And he can definitely be pertaining in that particular action for his own sake. But teams talk. So if it's a situation, even if you did something like that in Atlanta, your next team is going to look at you and say, you sure you're not going to do that over here? If things don't go your way, you're going to hide injuries from us? You're going to keep information from us and put us in a situation where we're not accomplishing the most that we can because you're on the field playing hurt? Like, how do we know you're not going to do it with us? So,
yeah, exactly. I think it's a difficult spot to put the team in. And honestly, like, I think Kirk knows like his next contract is probably his last one, so maybe he's just sort of doesn't really care if he goes scorched earth on some teams. Like he needs, I think his play is like, I have to get myself cut because the only way I'm starting is if someone is able to sign me for like nothing.
Well, what else does he need to do? I feel like honestly at this point, like what else needs to occur in order for us to say, okay, you know what? Let's cut him. Like, does he actually need to commit a crime? I'm just like, there's enough.
If he would do that, then we could get out of the guaranteed money, and then
we could get out of the guaranteed money.
Then sure,
Let him commit a felony, then we'll, we're scot free. We can wipe our hands clean here. But I'm like, what is the sense, or what do you gain from gaining something that's been a fractured relationship? What do you gain by keeping that on the sideline for another season?
Yeah. To me, and then I want to get on stake here too, but like to me, it's always been that you can't, like PR wise, like not even PR wise, more like league circles wise, like you can't let Kirk Cousins bully you into cutting him. Right. That's kind of where I sit. And like they also gain nothing, like financially speaking, from cutting him. Like they save $0 by doing a post June 1st cut. So it's like, I think the idea would be not to keep him on the sideline. I think the line about them wanting him as the backup is not true. Like, obviously, I don't think they really want that. What they want is to trade him to somebody else. Because if they can trade him, they can save $27.5 million. They could save the guaranteed salary. It doesn't help their cap this year. It helps a lot next year.
Which I get. But real quick, my thing is, look at what Denver did. They cut their losses. There was no need to keep Russell in the locker room for another year. You're not going to gain anything cap-wise. You're going to pay him to literally just put on a jersey and stand on the sideline. Just let's move on. Let's get this thing started. And look how it probably helped Bo Nix out a lot more, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's like if you're paying him either way, like you're paying him either to play for somebody else or for you. So, it's definitely one of the more fascinating aspects of this offseason. It's kind of going to be one of the first dominoes that we'll know about, too. So that's very interesting. But yeah, Adnan, what do you think about the latest development in the Kirk saga and where this kind of leaves us?
I mean, I think no matter what the team was going to say this, no matter what happened, because what's the alternative? Them saying, oh, yeah, we knew he was injured, we withheld it, and then we're just going to get fined or whatever. Team's already lost enough because of Cousins and press conferences and, the tampering stuff. No matter what happened, this was the logical play. Now, as to what actually happened, it's not a good look. My speculation, my guess is Kirk Cousins knows what this business is like, and he knows that, you get hurt as a quarterback. You have a guy behind you who's a top 10 pick in Michael Penix, and he knows that if you sit out a game, 2 games, 3 games, whatever, you could lose your job completely and not ever see the field again, because that's just the nature of how this works. If the Falcons had, gone with a rookie if the Falcons had, let's say, taken Spencer Rattler later on, I'm sure Cousins would have had no issues, divulging the injury. And, he knows that he's not going to lose his job to someone like Spencer Rattler, whereas Michael Penix was a top 10 pick. Now, that being said, it's a bad look of incompetence on the team. Like Corey Carter said it in the chat. What was the team's like assessment of Cousins? Just asking him if he's okay, and then that's it. And then, all right, let's just take his word for it. And I'm good, coach. All right, get out there, Kirk. Even though even though you see that he's like not okay, even though you see that he's, throwing ducks out there, he's throwing paper airplanes against the Chargers. So I think it's a bad look on the team. It's a bad look on the medical staff, on the coaching staff, everyone involved. But at the end of the day, no matter what, this had to be the stance that the team took, because now you can sort of, plead ignorance, and you can try to save yourself from a fine or from a loss of draft pick or whatever, because they would be repeat offenders on this, because the team already got fined with Bijan Robinson a few years ago for something similar. So you don't know, God forbid you lose another pick for no reason because of something involving a Kirk Cousins saga. But yeah, it's a bad look. It's a bad look for everyone involved.
And whichever way this goes, it's obvious that the team is trying to protect, as Adnan was alluding to, they're trying to protect their face as much as they can at this point. And there's only so much you can do, right? Like, this was going to be an awkward ending outside of, Kirk winning a Super Bowl. This was going to be an awkward ending the moment you drafted Michael Penix. Like, this was going to be one of those situations where, best case scenario, it plays out well. Kirk has a great year. They get to the playoffs. They win a playoff game or two. You can easily transition from Kirk to Michael Penix. Cool. It was still going to have a little level of awkwardness there, because it's going to be like, oh, you're really going to move on from a quarterback that just took you to the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. Like, is this the right thing to do? It was always going to be there. So whatever you're trying to salvage at this point, I think it should just be completely thrown out of the window. You already put yourself in a situation the moment you turned that card in on draft night and took Michael Penix. Let's just, whatever pride you're trying to save now to not, cut Kirk Cousins and say, let's cut our losses after 1 year. And no, we want him to be a high paid backup because he can forget all that, man. Like, it's time to win football games. Now you're trying to replenish your image or make yourself look a certain way. It's for no reason, in my opinion.
No, I like that. It's different. It's a different take than I've had. So I like to get a different look at it, because to me, I've been very focused on the financials and the sort of the league image. But I think what you're saying is more like, we just need to move on, and because it's a distraction,
The financials is going to be a thing. You can't wipe it away, whichever decision you make. I just know it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to pay his salary on top of giving him another $10 million, and you don't plan on playing him. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Even if you're trying to trade him, why give him 10? The way that this is played out, you're giving him a raise on March 17th.
It's 2026 that the money comes. So,
right.
Yeah. So that if you trade him, somebody else pays it. But
right. But I feel like if you can, why give him? You're giving him $10 million to say, hey, let's see if we can trade you a couple months from now. That's basically what we're like. What does that do for you? That makes
it's all. It's all about facilitating the trade, and you're basically gambling that you can trade that $10 million to somebody else, essentially, in order to save his salary this year. That would be with the trade, you could clear him completely off the cap this year, whereas you'd have to split it over the next 2 years.
He also has to agree to any trade.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So the odds may not actually be in your favor, honestly, because Kirk can say no to anywhere, and he will just stick you for the money. What's the point, guys?
And I'm on that side of what Eric's saying as well. I have been the whole time of, let's looking at the financials. Let's start fresh from 2026. I don't like the idea of having $10 million. $10 million is a starting linebacker.
Yeah.
Yes.
$10 million, even with the cap going up, $10 million isn't just small money.
Yeah.
And I don't like the idea of gambling with, you're sort of in a casino right now, and you're trying to gamble and use $10 million to buy in this deal of this poker game that you're already losing at. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. Let's just swallow the hit. Having Kirk Cousins this year doesn't really do anything for you. It could be a negative in the locker room, perhaps. And I'd rather just start fresh from 2026 because no matter what, that's $10 million. That's just sort of, if you look at it in a way, negating Michael Penix's rookie contract even more because it's whatever he's making in year 3 plus $10 million.
Yep.
You're not getting any benefit to that, rookie contract at all in that case.
Right.
Yeah. No, I everybody here knows my take on Cousins. I did like a 45-minute show on it. So I like that we're getting some additional takes in here. It's good to get multiple perspectives on the Kirk Cousins situation because it's an unfortunate one. But I do think that the way this ended up playing out is probably for the best. In that Michael Penix is the unquestioned starter going into 2025. I think there's a lot of ways this could have gone where we're looking at a competition, or maybe Kirk is like just kind of weirdly holding on to the starting job, but we're not really confident. Whereas I think the way this played out sucked for 2024, but it's probably going to be better for 2025 and beyond.
From the fan perspective, I can understand why the fan will be upset because given how close they were to the playoffs, like a win over the Saints could have been the difference, to be honest with you. Or I mean, just it's the fact that in that particular game, which is what we're suspecting that he got hurt in, they came down to the last drive. It was still a 1-possession game late. So you never really know. So I understand from the fan perspective, like just these two parties not being on the same page snowballed into something like this, where this man, to Adnan's point, this man was literally like thinking of his future while costing the team in the present. And look how much of a difference that was from that to a playoff spot, to be honest with you. So I can get the fans' perspective about just the sense of frustration they have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think that's the Kirk Cousins comments. The Kyle Pitts comments I think are much less like impactful, in that the team basically said like, yeah, we have a plan for him. We're excited to have him in the offense. No matter what they want to do, they were going to say this. Like,
yes.
Like, first of all.
Yes.
But
yes.
I also think it's like one of those things where like, of course they were going to say it, but I'm curious, I know Adnan and I have talked about it a little bit, but what do you think about, like, I think Kyle Pitts is the more fascinating, like, is he going to be traded or not guy, in terms of the Falcons actually could get serious compensation for Kyle Pitts. So it's a little bit more fun to talk about, but where do you kind of land on, and I don't think the comments, combine wise make much of a difference one way or the other, but where do you kind of land on, are they going to trade Pitts or not this offseason? Eric, did you hear me? Yeah.
I thought you were moving into Adnan first. I'm sorry.
No. Okay. Yes.
I never for once bought into this. I never thought this was really going to be a thing, simply because I look back and say that the guy that they're giving the keys to now, he never had a full offseason with all the young talent on offense. Remember last year, for most of training camp and leading into the season, he was throwing to scout team. He was throwing the second. He rarely threw, even during the season, he rarely threw with the first team. Yet we still saw what it looked like over the course of 3 games, where it's like, oh man, if they really had an offseason to put this thing together, this is how it looks with these guys not really having time to gel. So I felt like the team looked at that and said that's enough reason to say, let's give this young offense a full offseason to grow together and practice together and develop a rhythm, and let's see what happens next year. Plus, Penix coming out and saying that he wants Pitts to stay kind of sort of helped that as well. It kind of sort of helped that decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that. And Adnan, I can't remember where you stood on this. Did you think Pitts was more or less likely to be traded this offseason?
I mean, I don't think he's likely to be traded, just because I don't think the team will get the compensation they're looking for. Because there's no, like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. If someone comes offering me a second rounder, I'm moving on from Kyle Pitts. Like I forget, it's at least $10 million in cap savings. And I won't lie, like I think Kyle Pitts, I think it's consensus that wasn't, looking back with hindsight, that wasn't the best draft pick, I think, to say the least. And I think it's been disappointing, like because at some point, you know, he had that 1,000-yard season. At some point, we've made every excuse in the book for Kyle Pitts at this point, and you know, maybe this is the year everything clicks, but it's one of those where it's like a fool me once, fool me twice, fool me three times. You know, you're not fooling me a fourth time here. So I think they'll hold on to Pitts because they won't get what they're looking for. But if they got what they were looking for, I'd be more than okay with moving on from him.
Yeah, I think it does. It depends a ton on the compensation, right? And, you know, teams are going to try to lowball the Falcons because they know the Falcons need draft picks and cap relief, the two things that a Kyle Pitts trade would accomplish for them. So I don't think the offers are going to be good initially. I do think Kyle Pitts will continue to be a potential trade, like potential movement player all the way up until the trade deadline. Because if the Falcons like don't do well or whatever it is, like, you know, during the season and they're not playing well, like Pitts is an obvious guy to be moved. He'll be cheaper to acquire for a team as well at that point. You know, in terms of the salary cap. So he's someone that I don't think the talk is going to slow down about at any point. But I do think that the Falcons are going to be demanding at least a high day 2 pick for him and probably more. So at this point, unless someone's really offering a great deal, I don't think the Falcons are going to be really itching to make that trade. Had a couple questions come in. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Alex Foster with the $5. Thank you, Alex. Says, are there any positions that you guys would rather see addressed with free agency than the draft, considering we can't do everything during the draft? I know Adnan mentioned it like in a comment, but like linebacker, you know, linebackers aren't as expensive as other positions, and safety to a certain extent is like that too. So I also think the linebacker class in free agency is actually really good. So yeah, I mean, to me, I think linebacker would be one for sure, because I think it's a position where you don't have to pay as big of a premium, and there are a lot of guys available this year, so that'll help drive the price down a bit too. But yeah, Adnan, any positions that you'd be targeting in free agency versus the draft?
Yeah, those are the two, linebacker and safety, just because those, I think for some reason, those have been the positions that have more so lagged behind the others from a dollar perspective and from a value, obviously running back as well, but running backs, let's be honest, that's a low shelf life. But I mean, we've seen a pass rusher was one of the first ones where it's just exploded from a market perspective. Obviously, all of the offensive line positions as well, given that it's such a passing league at this point. You know, wide receivers, I think it started, I don't know if it started then, but I remember the Christian Kirk contract with Jacksonville. From then on, like wide receivers got so overinflated, cornerback as well. And at this point, safety and linebacker, like these are both very important positions, obviously, but they're sort of the cheapest ones still to this day. I think we will get to a point where both of these positions are, you know, more valued, and where the linebackers and free agent safeties will be getting more money in the coming years, but I don't think it's happened yet. So I'm more than okay with taking advantage of that right now while we can.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, do you have any positions that you're looking at more in free agency than the draft, Eric, for the Falcons? Oh, you might be muted.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I definitely, you guys know, and I've definitely spoken about possibly doing this in the past a number of times, but because they've been trying to swing so much for, because they're trying to swing so much at the edge position, I definitely wouldn't mind double dipping there this offseason, getting a veteran at edge along with getting a guy in the first round or two at the position as well. I I do like this wide receiver class in the draft, but I would be okay if they were to go the veteran route and add another name to that room. This team, as much skill as they have, with a guy like Drake London who had a career year, Darnell Mooney almost had 1,000-yard season, and he was able to play in the last game of the season. He definitely would have gotten it. But I still think that they need some speed to stress the defense. I still think they need someone that can take the top off of a defense and create bigger chunk plays in the passing game. And there's a couple guys out there that could be had for someone like that. A guy like Demarcus Robinson from the Rams is a veteran that's been in this same system for quite a while, and he's a guy that can come in my opinion, and give you that big play threat that he's done for the Rams over the last few years. So, yeah, offense, wide receiver, would like to address edge if possible in free agency, and I wouldn't mind adding another bet on the back end in the secondary, whether that's re-signing Mike Hughes or spending a little bit of extra money and getting a CB2 back there. I don't want it extremely young. They do need to add some youth to this defense, but they don't have to be youthful across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are definitely
I think it would be a mistake to let Mike Hughes walk.
Yeah. I think they want Mike Hughes back. They seem to really like him, Jerry Gray in particular. So, I agree. So we'll see what they end up doing. But yeah, I agree. I think this is like corner too is deep. Corner is just, with them paying AJ Terrell, it's like I can't really see them going big for corner, but like a Mike Hughes, maybe like more of a mid-range corner. I could see that for sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely those position groups I think are good ones to highlight. We got Corey Carter with the 2 asks, did we really only send our defensive staff to the combine? If we did, then it's a definite misdirect if we're drafting a tight end. I mean, that's probably like they used all of their official meetings on defensive players was the report. I don't know that they said like literally no offensive staff members allowed to be here. I mean, Raheem's there. He's both sides of the ball technically, right? And Terry Fontenot's there. He doesn't, he's just the overall head. So I think that they're not looking at any offensive players is overblown. But I do think they're serious about focusing on the defense because, I think we all know why. But yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up in they're only meeting. You can meet with whoever you want through various channels. It's just I think it's probably more of a reflection of where the team needs are. The Falcons offense is in good shape, honestly. There's definitely some spots where there's always spots you can improve. Wide receiver 3, we'd like to see that, long-term offensive tackles a need. We got to make sure we get Drew Dahlman back in the building, but overall, the offense is in such a better place than the defense. It's I don't even blame them for being we probably just need to spend a year giving the defense the love that the offense has been getting for years now. So
yeah.
This is the year. This is we'll be saying it now. This is the year they're going to go get defense, and at the end of the day, it'll be a hell of a misdirection. We think it's no chance that it's not going to be defense, and then they're going to get Luther Burton or something.
Yeah, Luther Burton, you are a Falcon. I don't even blame the mock drafters at this point. It's I think it's really stupid that we're drafting a wide receiver at 15 in a mock draft, but the Falcons have been doing this every year. I can't I can't even fault people at this point. You're right. That probably that's probably right.
That would hurt my soul, man. Yeah. That really would. That would hurt my soul.
I don't think you have to worry too much about that, honestly.
Come on, man. There's no way possible you're really going to look at this team and say, yeah, let's address offense. We have 5 picks, guys. 5. Do we have to waste one on a receiver? Seriously, come on.
7th rounder, baby. Oh, bring me Zachary Franklin in the 7th.
Now listen, if they wanted to wait till day 3 to take a receiver, I got some guys that we can take a look at. There's a guy at UNLV by the name of Ricky White that I like that can really add some playmaking ability to this offense if they want to do that, but not round 1, man. Please.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think you have to worry too much about
5 picks, maybe they trade up. Maybe it'll be 3.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man!
There we go. You got to.
Kevin. How long have we been praying for them to trade down in the draft? It's It's an
been
annual
2017 is when we started. So
literally.
That's also going to be a misdirection. Like, this feels like the year where the team will trade down. It makes too much sense. And then, I think what's the stat? The Falcons have traded back one time in the first round ever. I think someone in the comments looked it up for us once. Was it like 1990 or something?
Yep. So, we're overdue for one, I do like non-ironically think that they're probably going to, but yeah.
They trade back to take an offensive player. Like how
man, we're going to get that offensive tackle pick's going to hit like crack.
Jesus Christ, man.
Hey, man.
They're going to extend McGarry and like restructure, Jake Matthews again and draft a tackle in the first round. Yeah.
And sign Storm Norton.
There you go. We're gonna have the tackles. We're gonna do a whole. We're gonna have all the tackles locked down.
We're gonna do nine tackles. That's what we're gonna do.
We're gonna go to jumbo pack all day. So, yeah.
Hey, you never know. I saw Ashton Ginty was at the Hawks game a couple nights ago. Yeah, you know.
Hey, look, make a strength a strength.
Ashton Ginty is getting some love, man.
And
this is. We can move on to the next topic after this, but this season for running backs truly helped this group coming in this particular draft class. These guys are getting some love, man.
Yeah, no, it's a great running back class. Like it really is. So,
not a Bijan out there, but it's okay.
Ginty is up there. That's for sure. I do like him. So, yeah. Okay, we got one more question from Brandon. About the Cousins contract. I definitely hear about saving the $10 million. I do wonder, like, if we get rid of Cousins, what do we do at backup quarterback? Because I feel like then we'd either have to draft someone or sign a veteran. So how much would we really be saving net? Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I talked about, Brandon, like on the previous episode. Like at that point, I think if you do cut Cousins, it's not really like you're not really trying. It's not about the finances. It's about just moving on. So. So that's probably what they're probably don't really care at that point. They're just wanting to move on.
I'd much rather bring in Tyrod for a year than to pay $40 million plus to Kirk to be on the sidelines for no reason. I'm like this. I don't care. Give me the backup role. I don't care. Just you can't have Kirk back in his locker room, man.
I also feel like Kirk. Like, is going to pretend to be... He's like that guy that, like, sends, like, a mean, like, text in the group chat or something. And then he, like, shows up, and he's just, like, no different than he usually is. He's like... I feel like Kirk is just, like, not capable of being an asshole or something.
I don't think Kirk texted the group chat since he got benched.
I don't even know if he ever texted the group chat.
Oh, he probably did. He probably did with dad jokes when they were winning.
Yeah.
And then the losing streak, he kind of sort of slowed down on the text. And then when he got benched all together, it was like,
Yeah. I am curious because he strikes me as a guy that's like his agent's like really like coaching him like you got to be a dick to everyone, like you got to get out of there. But like whenever like so he's like trying to be all tough, and then like as soon as somebody like talks to him, he's like, hey yo, what's up, man, how you doing? Yeah. Oh wait, sorry, I can't. Hey man, like he just strikes me as that guy that's just like can't. He's just like not. He's just too nice. Like
he can't keep a mean face.
Yeah. So I'm curious about how that would go down, but but I mean, speaking of Ginty, gets us to the combine and the prospects we want to watch. I know Ginty is one of the more hyped guys there. I figured right off the top, I mean, who do we think is going to run the fastest 40? I know a lot of people think a Georgia player will.
What Georgia player would that be?
I guess a lot of people think Arian Smith is going to run the fastest 40. They didn't say he has to catch a pass at the end, so
I mean, he could. Like I said, I think Ricky White is a guy that can really put up a great total there. I'm trying to think of are there any. I'm interested in seeing what Judkins will run. I want to see his time run. I think he should be running a 4.4. We'll see. But man, that speed showed up for sure for Ohio State this year. But yeah, I mean, we can. I guess we can. Arian might be a guy. Is there anybody? Can't think of anybody else that might.
I was thinking like Isaiah Bond, maybe. He's
Bond
pretty
could. Yep.
fast.
Yep.
Um,
Definitely.
who else? I feel like Tez Johnson is too small to run the fastest 40. Like, because sometimes when you get like too small, like under 5'10", it's like you can't, your strides like actually aren't long enough to run the fastest 40. But he's going to be really fast. I think
Yeah.
he's more like quick though. Yeah. There's probably a corner that I don't know. Someone said Maxwell Hairston could run the fastest 40 too. I haven't seen a ton of him, but apparently he's really fast. So
Are we not giving Travis a chance?
I feel like Travis is gonna run fast. I don't think he's the fastest though. Like I feel like Travis is like a 4.38 type of guy. Which is like obviously that's very fast. It's just not like fastest at the combine. But yeah. Those are the guys that immediately came to mind.
Arian may come into play. Like I said, Isaiah Bond would definitely probably throw his hat in the ring. Maybe a guy like Brashard Smith out of SMU. He's a former Miami guy. Trey Harris? No. Savion Williams.
Yeah, he's unique.
Savion Williams. That's another name. That's another guy that might, he might time well for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. Those are some good ones. Yeah. And then obviously everybody wants to know about the edge rushers. I maybe we should spend a second on Mike Green. So obviously the allegations and like stuff from his past like became more public this week. This is not new to the NFL. It's just new to sort of the media. But knowing what the Falcons prefer, obviously that's gonna impact, I think, their thoughts on him. But I heard the Falcons liked Mike Green, and I can't believe they didn't know about this stuff. So like I would still imagine that they have Mike Green pretty high, but
I'm sure you heard that a lot during Senior Bowl week, right?
Yeah. I mean, like they like Mike Green a lot. I mean, I don't know how you could not like Mike Green at this point, especially after watching the Senior Bowl. So, it's so I think they still like him, but yeah, I'm not sure. We just knowing what we know about how the Falcons have typically graded guys, that would be something that might push him out of like top 15 consideration for them, but. I also heard that they liked him, and I know Trayshawn heard that as well. So, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that.
I want to let that play out. Let that play out because we thought that something like that was going to be damaging for a guy like Micah, and it wasn't. So we'll just let that play out, and we'll see what becomes of that when draft night rolls around. I do like Mike Green a lot. Of course, Abdul Carter is the number one edge rusher in the draft, number one defensive player in the draft in the eyes of some. But man, Mike Green is not far behind. Right now, Mike Green and Mikael Williams are kind of sort of having a tug of war as far as edge two right now in this draft. I would be fine with either one of them. There's a guy in round 2. I know during Senior Bowl week. I know Kevin saw this a lot as well. Princely out of Ole Miss. I cannot pronounce his last name. And I'm like,
Oman Mielen.
You got it, my man. Yeah. I know they fell in love with him and his measurables at the Senior Bowl, and we'll see what comes of that. I think there's a lot of intrigue, but I also think there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to taking a guy like that. But there's another edge out of Boston College that I like a lot. Donovan
Ezeraku. Yeah.
Ezeraku, yes. Mm-hmm. That guy is a rock, man. Yeah. All right. He just led the ACC in sacks last year, 16 and a half. One of the quietest 16 and a half sack seasons you'll ever see. Like that guy brings it. And he's 6'2", 250. I can't wait to see how he looks in workouts this week.
Yeah, no, he's really exciting. He's definitely one of those guys that could earn himself a lot of money. I think Michael, you mentioned Michael too. He's another one that like allegedly played hurt all year. And maybe Adnan, I know you watch, Georgia football, so you might know more about Michael Williams' situation. But yeah, I heard that there was a lot of rumors that he basically played hurt all year or played through an injury for most of the season. So
I mean, hey, the Falcons love guys who are playing through injuries. Apparently,
they do. They love it. Yeah.
with their quarterback. I don't think Michael's going to be there at 15. I Regarding the Green situation, I'm with Eric of let's let it play out because look, props to the Falcons those years for, trying to get these guys who are, team captains and who have no off the field like issues or anything like that. But let's be honest, I feel like that's sort of
The choir boys.
yeah, the choir boys. I feel like that sort of really hurt the team a little bit in terms
Oh,
of
good.
they didn't none of those guys ever, or not none of the guys, but the team didn't really have an edge. Like
Right.
not an edge literally as in an edge rusher, but they didn't
They
have
also didn't have edge rushers.
they also
Yeah,
didn't
that's a
have-
coincidence.
In terms of
Double-
attitude. In terms of attitude, yeah.
and we saw that pop up in 2013. Remember when none of the offensive linemen helped Matt Ryan when Vaccaro had that like late hit or anything like that. But yeah, I'm just sort of over it a little bit at this point of the Falcons. Just anytime anyone has anything that happens off the field, the Falcons just take them off the board completely. And I'm not saying to discount everything, but it's like let's
Like
let's
in this situation, this was something that occurred that forced him to transfer from one school to another. So this is years. This is not anyone saying like this is fresh. This just happened.
yeah.
This happened years down the line. It's already been handled. Everyone's, I guess, started to move on at the very least. So it's different. Like I don't think it's like the Micah thing to an extent. And again, even then, that didn't necessarily kill him.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, what did that really hurt the Cowboys? Well,
No.
they ended up getting the best defensive player in that draft, and I mean, yeah, I'm okay with changing the stance of the whole like, all right, let's get the 4-year starter team captain guys on this team. Like, let's okay with getting some of these guys who don't have the cleanest track record. I'm not saying like, he could have committed any like, anything and everything, but some of this stuff, it's like, it's behind him, and let's move on.
The last
Yeah.
couple of years was funny. The last couple of years, I've wanted a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson to be picked up in free agency because I thought he was perfect for that particular aspect. I mean, he's good on the field, man. Like Adnan pointed out, there's no edge in the locker room. There's no attitude in the locker room, and a guy like that definitely would have bought it. But I agree with Adnan for sure.
Yeah, it's like you gotta check it out. You gotta,
The
you
Boy
need
Scouts.
to-
The
yeah.
Boy Scouts doesn't always stand out on the field, man.
No, it's like you need to have some flexibility and also recognize that like a lot of these guys and not all allegations are the same.
Right.
Not all allegations are true, obviously. So you have to vet it, and I think the Falcons
Do your due
default
diligence.
stance.
for sure.
Yeah, you have to vet it, and I think the Falcons' default stance has been to just stay away from those guys for multiple reasons. And like, I think in some ways it's like, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad idea because if you have two players that you rate similarly, one of them has skeletons in the closet, one of them doesn't, you might as well take the guy that doesn't. But they haven't been making the right decisions most of the time with that.
This team has been so scorned by the Michael Vick saga. Like to the point
yes.
where
yes.
over the next 15, 20 years, it's all coming up on 20 years, like you're just letting that, which has happened in a whole nother world. 18 years in the NFL is an eternity. You can't just let that continue, like, having an effect on you.
I feel like if a prospect, if it's reported that a prospect got like a speeding ticket or something, like he might be taken off the draft board. Like they may go back and rehash that particular position on the
no
draft
wonder
board.
the Falcons never take any UGA players.
Yes. We know that. Okay, that's just non-negotiable.
Okay, so I mean, it's just you got a point there. It's funny. That's hilarious. But yeah, it's just I feel like we are at that point. Like, yes, they drafted some guys with talent, but honestly, like as much as I like Jesse Bates, as much as I like AJ Terrell, Grady Jarrett, like these guys are not, you know, the 100% in your face, like we're going to get nasty on game, that we're going to get, mean on game day and play with an edge. Like they kind of sort of need to shake it up a little bit.
I could see that. Yeah. So you got to vet it. You can't be drafting guys that are going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If he's got
sort of
6 DUIs in college, no. Okay, that's
fool me once,
Okay, we're not.
There are levels,
right.
and you got to vet it. And again, it's like if you got to look at the allegations, you got to do your due diligence and look. Has he kept out of trouble since then? And if he has,
right.
and he's changed, whether he did it or not, if he's changed his ways and kept out of trouble, then maybe you're willing to take a chance.
He skipped a couple classes, like we all did. Like,
no, he's off my board. You can't skip. Yeah, that's not allowed. Yeah, that just shows just a lack of commitment, right?
Oh,
I can't have you skipping practices. All right, so yeah, no. But yeah, we talked about there's a couple of guys there. Adnan, anyone in particular you're excited to see? I know there's a deep class. Yeah.
Shamar Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that made waves in the Senior Bowl, and I feel like he's going to really be one of these workout warriors a little bit because he has the size. Like he is someone you sort of look like you've built in a lab to play defensive line.
First guy off the bus.
Yeah, but it's also one of those where it's like, looks like Tarzan plays like Jane type things from college.
Yeah.
But I am curious. I'm curious to see if a team does sort of, or one, how well he does at the combine, and two, if anyone really sort of falls in love with him, because I can see that happening with Falcons. I can see the Falcons falling in love with the traits, and maybe even taking a swing at 15 if he is there at 15. But he's someone I'll be keeping an eye on. And then, of course, all the UGA guys. Malachi Starks. We mentioned Michael Williams. That's just Jelon Walker. Just all the UGA guys, just for selfish reasons as well.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like I'm just like not on this Jalen Walker like top 10 hype. Obviously, he could have an incredible workout, and that could change the way people think about him. But Adnan, you watched a lot of Jalen Walker. What do you think about this top 10 hype? I mean, and how do you kind of see him? I mean, I know he's kind of the topic du jour. Like I think he's been going in the top 10 in a lot of mock drafts lately.
I mean, look, anything I say, it's February right now. So
yes, couched appropriately. Yes, of course.
I don't know. I feel like this isn't. I feel like I'm throwing cold water on this whole like pre-combine stuff right now, because anything that happens right now that I have a take on right now, it probably won't matter a week from now, 2 weeks from now, because the answer is pretty much what it would be for a lot of these prospects, and it's just, how's he going to look at the combine? Because I feel like at this point in the NFL, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what you guys have seen, but it feels like teams put more stock in the combine versus what a lot of these players did on the field.
Yes, because it's that up close and personal, experience that you have at the combine. You get to see them. You don't have to watch them from an all 22 view. You're right; they're standing right in front of you. So to go to your point about Shamar Stewart, I do think he's, regardless of position, I think he's going to be one of the best players on the field in bag drills. It's the tape, it's what shows up on the tape that makes teams scared of him, including myself, including in the first round. The tape shows a guy that I don't know what is he? Is he an edge? They stood him up a lot, but he's 6'5", close to 290. He played a little bit of 3-tech. Whenever they showed even fronts, he played some strong side defensive. What is he? I don't know where to put him.
Yeah. I feel like he's an edge rusher. Yeah. I feel like he can just play edge. Yeah.
If he's an edge rusher, he's one of the biggest edge rushers I've ever seen in my life. That dude's almost 300 pounds.
I know, it's crazy.
For a stand-up edge,
it's that fascinating like experiment though, like almost psychological experiment of all right, we know what's on tape. We know what he did in college, but then look at him now. Like look at him at the combine. Look at him, running these, and we've seen it so many times of, for better or for worse. I'm not saying that Shamar Stewart is going to be a bust or anything like that. But we've seen it so many times where a team kind of tricks themselves and, kind of galaxy brains a little bit of, all right, like the traits are just so good. So it comes down to striking that balance of traits versus production.
Tyree Wilson is the first name that comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another guy that a couple years ago was considered a top 10 guy, and it wasn't because of his production. It was the fact that he was looking like he was made out of marble, and he tested well. He was what it looks like, what a true edge looks like. But here it is, year 3, and
yeah,
I don't even think he has double-digit career sacks yet. I'm not sure.
No, it's yeah, exactly.
One thing to consider is like a lot of these coaches do have, let's be honest, all of these coaches have an ego on them. Like you can't get to this level without at least a little bit of an ego, and you have. I think regarding someone like a Shamar, there's going to be some defensive coordinator that's saying, okay, I can
make him an all-pro.
Yep. Yeah, I can work with this, and under my tutelage and under what I'm teaching and what I'm going to do, he's going to be a 15 sack guy. It's going to happen. Like it always happens. It's just a case of who's going to do that. Could it possibly be the Falcons? I don't know, but I feel like someone will.
Would you guys be okay with him if they already addressed the position in free agency? If they brought in an established vet, would you be okay with rolling the dice on the traits of a Shamar Stewart?
Just because the Falcons, I think, need more than one edge rusher to really fix the pass rush, I wouldn't be against it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's because this team isn't one good pass rusher away from really even being average at this point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, how many of this guy do we need? Like, we got Rook, we got Zach Harrison, we got, add Shamar Stewart to the mix. Like, we already don't play those guys.
Right.
So like, but the scheme might be changing. So that obviously could change. It's like, and it's nothing, it's not even a knock on Shamar. It's like, can you guys like use all these huge
he better play if he's the 15th pick.
Oh yeah, but it's like you haven't figured out what you want to do with Zach Harrison yet, who is like an even cleaner projection, I would say, to playing edge. You tried to bulk him up and make him play inside. It's like so maybe that'll go away now that we have a new defensive coordinator. But
I do want to say that while Ulbrich was in New York with the Jets, the defensive tackle spots was a very important piece to their unit. Look at a guy like Quentin Williams and how he blossomed. But not only that, a guy like John Franklin Myers, before he got paid by Denver, was another key cog. Remember, they had Sheldon Rankins at one point in time as well. So this is going to be a scheme that's truly not just going to look at D tackles and just throw 3 big bodies out there and call it a day. Like, no, these guys are going to be asked to generate that pass rush and get things going for the edge rushers, make life a little easier for the edge rushers. I don't know what the Jets defenses would be without a guy like Quentin Williams. I think he's the straw that stirs the drink there. So
yeah. No, I mean, that brings me to the guy that I wanted to highlight too, which is Kenneth Grant. Like, I think I'm not at all against taking Kenneth Grant at 15 if he's there.
I just want to, if the fan ever wanted to know what it's like to have like a grizzly bear charge at you,
go watch that man. Yeah.
Watch Kenneth Grant. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's rumors he's gonna test crazy too. So.
Oh my God. I you know what? I would not be surprised if he runs sub 5 in the 40. Would not be surprised whatsoever.
340 pounds.
6'5", 6'6", 340, a grizzly bear.
Like,
Man.
I mean, you look at what, I think it was Morris and Fontenot said. It was like, we want to get bigger and stronger. Okay, Kenneth Grant, come on down.
Yeah,
Like, there you go. That fits the bill.
Both of those damn boxes.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he checks Adnan's box too about bringing more attitude in the locker. This dude is a bear, man. Like, when you see him charging at you and he beats a double team, that quarterback is probably saying, "Oh, like, I have to get rid of this football because he's going to kill me." Like,
he's
it's
gonna
just
eat me. Yeah, like
yes, he is. He's going to eat me.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like Kenneth Grant. I think that's an underrated one for the Falcons at 15. But if he tests crazy, he might not even last that long. I guess we'll
think
see.
He's getting a little late first round buzz right now, but testing well would definitely solidify that in my opinion.
I'm not saying that Grant is going to be him, but we've seen that kind of player in Vita Vea in Tampa Bay, and we've seen that just how much of a difference he can make.
Right.
To the point where, like, other teams are actively scheming against him. Like, he's a game breaker in the middle. And yeah, I mean, if the Falcons take Grant, and if Grant becomes something of that mold, then that's someone you can literally build your defense around.
You can count on Vita Vea making a play, at least one a game. Like, you can almost count on it. It's going to happen, and trust me, we've seen plenty of it since he entered the league.
I mean, we saw when the Falcons played them, I think on Thursday night, I was going to say they refused to ever run the ball inside, but then again, the Falcons don't really do much of that either way.
Right.
But, like, especially in that game, like, the Falcons were just like, it almost felt like they were terrified of ever running the ball at Vea, and I mean, for good reason. But yeah, it's one of those type of things where, this is someone where you always have to sort of account for him.
Absolutely. And a guy like Kenneth Grant can do something like that. I want to ask you guys a real quick question about the interior guys, because I think edge and interior D-line is probably going to get the looks within the first and second round for the Falcons. So are you guys, or have you guys bought into the Walter Nolan hype? I see Walter Nolan. I saw what he did at A&M before he transferred to Ole Miss. I saw what he did at the Senior Bowl. He was arguably the best player at the Senior Bowl. And I do see some Quinnen Williams remnants in him and his ability and his role in his defense. Are you guys bought into that as well?
Yeah, Adnan, you got to take.
I mean, are you saying at 15, Eric?
I wouldn't be against it. I would love that move more than taking Shamar Stewart at 15.
I mean, that's
no question.
Fair. That's definitely fair. I mean, it all depends on what you're.
I'll feel fine at 15 if Mikal Green and Abdul, if those guys are gone by 15, I'll be okay with it. If they're still on the board, I will prioritize those guys before Nolan.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess like there were some consistency issues like in college, but then again, like, if you're gonna make the case for Shamar Stewart, then
right,
it comes with like whatever your preference is. But
right.
I mean, I think Walter Nolan's a fine player. I mean, at 15, I would need to be talked into it, but I would hear the case for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
like I'm willing to hear out like anyone that's saying Nolan at 15. But I would sort of need to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I don't know. I'm so confused by what this team wants. Like, after like last year and the year before, it's like I have no idea what like they're trying to get anymore. But yeah, I mean, I do think he should be in consideration. I mean, he'll be probably one of the highest rated players on the board at that point. I know like Zerline loves Walter Nolan. I think he has Walter Nolan as his number one defensive tackle, like even above Mason Graham, which is aggressive. But, I mean, I respect people that take that type of stance, but that's a little rich for me. But Yeah, I mean, I think that's a consideration, and to me, I'd throw in Jahdae Barron and Malachi Starks as guys to consider in that range too, even though probably those are more like trade down guys, but I do think slot is critical. And Malachi Starks could play safety and slot, but yeah.
There was a point in time where I thought about this defense and how much too high shell they're going to run, and thinking to myself like, man, to have a Jesse and a Malachi Starks back there, like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Two playmakers on the back end like that.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to Brian Branch on the Falcons defense, basically.
I had Brian Branch a couple years ago without trading down, but
well,
yeah, it's a different conversation. Let's just say that when I saw Branch there at the pick, I was like, and look, I like Matthew Bergeron. We all like Matthew Bergeron, but I did internally scream when I saw Brian Branch make it to the Falcons pick of where the Falcons had traded up from.
Yeah.
No, it's tough, but I do think the secondary guys should be in consideration. But yeah, I think given the depth of the how many good edge rushers and defensive tackles are there, probably unlikely that we're gonna get to a point on the board where you're not going either Mike Green or Micah Williams or something like that, or Kenneth Grant or something like that. I'd probably have those guys above a corner or safety, even though I think Jahdae Barron's awesome. Elite slot corner. I don't really have any questions about his game. And then Malachi Starks, if you want that versatile slot safety, Brian Branch type player, then yeah, he's there too.
But
And
think of the UGA quota that we need to hit though. I think we need to hit at least 2 this draft out of
right.
the.
Yeah, because we lost one last year. So
I've had someone float the idea of getting a guy like Will Johnson if he's somehow available at 15 in the situation where the defensive line was addressed in free agency. I wouldn't be mad at that idea either. I think we're all in agreement that we want whatever the team feels is the best defensive player available at wherever they pick. If they feel that guy is an interior guy, we'll talk ourselves into it. If it's edge, so be it. If it's a playmaking safety back there, we're not going to frown at it.
100%. Look, honestly, at this point, just take a defensive guy, and I'll talk myself into it.
Yeah,
exactly. I think there's a lot of pathways you could make. I mean, I could even see I know Giod Campbell's getting a ton of hype first round. I think that's rich, but I do think
he's getting some first round love. Yes.
So there's the option there. And then there's always Luther Burden,
That I'm not talking myself into.
Yeah, I'm not talking myself into that. I don't give a damn how many 100-yard games he has his rookie season. I don't care. We still can't get to the quarterback. That's still going to bother me.
No, I agree. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking, you guys. I'm joking.
That's until you do the first film breakdown of Luther Burden after he's drafted, and you're like, you know what, guys?
You know what?
I see what they were doing.
This guy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This could be Greatest Show on Turf 2.0. I'm just saying, guys.
That's what we better hope for, because that's the only way they're winning games at that point. We better hope they're scoring 30 plus a week. That's the only ticket. So.
Hey, strength and strength, like you said. Yeah, you know what the best defense is? A better offense.
Man,
yeah.
You guys want to do week 18 times? Is that what it is?
There we go. Look, if we can't outscore the Panthers, all right, then what are we doing?
Every game comes down to who wins the coin toss.
Yep, that's it. We just need that extra possession. That's right. Yeah. Well, I guess there's that buzz that they're going to extend the playoff overtime rules to the regular season. So maybe we don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah.
Look,
Well, yeah, if that was the case, then I truly believe Michael Penix would have won the game for us in Washington. I'm sorry. That kid was ready. He was ready for the moment, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they should have won it either way, but
yeah,
they should have
robbed
it,
by coaching.
That game shouldn't have seen overtime, but
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we had one last comment from Corey Carter with the $2. He says, "Don't worry, I'll make sure Mike Green falls to us. I'm gonna get that Photoshop of him with the bong out any minute now." So,
the Falcons definitely not taking him.
Yep.
That that has to be done the day of the draft. Don't do
That's
that
right.
now.
Can't do it too early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too early. Yeah.
That will die over by the time the draft comes around.
Yep.
Well, how crazy was that? Like, just looking back, like it happened, and it's like this is
a thing.
This is insane that this actually happened.
Yeah.
Like because you thought at that point, like every draftee wakes up, he's bubble wrapped, he's transported to nothing is going to happen to this prospect, and all of a sudden, you see this guy hitting a video of him hitting the bong on draft day. Like, I didn't think this would happen. This is wild. Is he doing this now? I know that's the first thing that came in my mind.
Right.
Like,
is this like right now? Is this at the pre-draft party? Like, he just sitting there. Woo! I mean, not that I blame him. It's a pre-draft party. But,
before you got drafted. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
Probably wait till the pick is in, and then
right,
you hit.
Yeah.
That contract hasn't been signed. There's.
No, he should hit him with the old what was it, the Clinton excuse? I didn't inhale. Yeah.
You had a mask on, dude.
Yeah. You had a gas mask on. Yeah. It's impossible to not. Yeah. Yeah. No. Thankfully, the NFL seems to be caring less and less about that these days. But yeah.
Josh Gordon doesn't want to hear that. Okay.
No, Josh Gordon's career,
he wants justice.
Derailed.
All right.
Justice for Josh Gordon for sure. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Fun show. Happy to have Eric back, guys. He's at _Eric_Robinson over at the 4-Letter Network, ESPN. Still kicking it over there. Eric, anything else you're working on you want to let the people know about?
As always, man, I'm plugging the Falcoholic. This is their time of the year where Kevin and Adnan, they just crank out the film, they crank out the scout reports, the draft boards, they get you prepared. That way, by the time draft night happens and you take a quarterback at 8, it doesn't necessarily throw you off because you were already prepared because the Falcoholic gave you the necessary info that you needed. So, as always,
I feel like the only person that was even remotely thinking this could happen was Dave. And I think he may have had a pre-write, either in the works.
We did have a Penix pre-write, I think. Yeah. I think I was like, might as well, why not? Yeah.
I'll admit, seeing the report that they flew out there to work him out at that particular time of the draft process, I said, okay, I'm going to file this away in the back of my mind. I'm not just going to look at it and brush it off. Normally that doesn't happen. You don't get on a jet in early April and fly all the way across the country to see a kid throw a football in the rain. There's something to it. So
yeah. No, I sort of thought it was either trying to drive their trade down that they wanted, or they were hoping he would fall to the second. Because I believe that they really liked him. I mean, I don't think there was any question about that, but I just didn't think they were serious at 8. But nope, it was neither. They actually were going to take him at 8, which, as ridiculous as it seemed at the time, that's probably the smartest thing they did all last season. So yeah.
And people don't want to say it. That's okay.
But that's what we said after the draft was like, if this guy turns into your franchise quarterback, no one's gonna care what you did to get him.
When he takes us,
whatever it takes.
He leads us to 11-6 this year and a division title and a playoff berth. Then we're still going to be standing there with our arms folded,
well, it was dumb that they took 2 quarterbacks last year. Yeah, right. Okay, buddy. Go have fun.
In a vacuum, the pick, I wouldn't have had any issues with it had they not signed Cousins to that massive contract.
Yeah,
I just hate the idea of allocating all the resources to a free agent and Penix. Now, hindsight 2020, it's taking Penix ended up being a saving grace, possibly.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a bad look on the front office for doing both of those things, and not necessarily because Penix was a bad pick, because Cousins was a bad signing.
I know that rubs some people the wrong way. I know we're getting ready to sign off, but just want to say, I just looking at it now, just imagine if they didn't. Imagine if they didn't take Penix and they're sitting at 15 right now with 5 picks in this draft, and it's like, damn, they can't rush the passer, nor do they have their answer at quarterback.
Yep.
They'd be talking about trading up for Cam Ward.
Yeah, and saying, hey, let's just put up 30 a game and hope for the best.
Yeah, thankfully we don't have to worry about that. So we could be in a much worse situation in a lot of ways. So at least there's that. We can hang our hat on that. But yeah, thanks to Eric again. Also, of course, Adnan Ikic, he's at Say Which Way. Adnan's going to have a brief hiatus after this episode. But Adnan, thanks for coming on. Anything else you're working on you want other people know about?
No, I'm just gonna also plug the Falcoholic.com. Everyone's doing great work over there. We're gonna, I know the draft is the big topic, and everyone loves talking about the draft, but we still also have free agency to get to, and with Falcons, with the cap going up, they won't be as active as recent years, but there's still going to be a few moves here and there. There's going to be, maybe a semi-big name at free agency that they take, and then some other smaller guys. So, that's my guess. And then we also have the Drew Dahlman situation to monitor of re-signing him. So yeah, it's a lot to look forward to in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, a lot going on, lots to consider there. Also, I know we had a question about it. Yes, D. Alford reached out to us to come on the show. We're working on getting a show set up with D. Alford. I know he's got a lot he wants to talk about. We're gonna break down some plays from last year, some of the more hotly debated plays with D. We're gonna get his take on the defense and everything that happened last year, and see how he's hanging in there, and get his take on free agency and such too. We're hoping to record that next week, hopefully to publish the following week. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thanks to D for reaching out. We're excited to talk to him. Should be a great show. So, but yeah, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. Again, thank you guys for joining us here on the Falcoholic Live. Thanks to my guests as well. And of course, my co-host Adnan Ikic. And if you guys don't mind, like, subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to support the show, hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/Falcoholic or you can join up with the YouTube channel memberships too. So we got lots of new content coming your way. I'm going to have a post-combine mock draft coming at some point. We're going to have we're going to have Tuesday takes. It's going to be like more Friday this week. Trayshawn was able to fix his technical difficulties, so we'll get a belated Tuesday takes to you guys later this week. And then we'll have some post-combine content, and then we'll be right into free agency after that. So we're just about to get heavily underway here in the offseason. The little slow period for most of February is just about behind us. So thanks for hanging out with us through this slow period, guys. We'll be back very soon with more hot and fresh Falcons content for you guys. So until then, have a great night, folks. Thanks for joining us. And thanks again to our sponsors, BetOnline and Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring the show. Have a great night, guys. Thanks.